Hello friends, this is Muskan. Welcomes you all in our English lectures. Today in this lecture we are going to start with a new chapter that is from your Alien Hand Test book, chapter 3, the desert. Now, thinking of the desert, the thing which comes to our mind, that is apparent land, that is very hot, sand, all over sand. So let's see and let's understand that what actually the desert is, what the beauty of the desert is. Now, thinking of the desert, the only thing that comes to our mind is the hot and dry climate over there and sand all over. Now, yes, desert is an endless stretch of sand, means all over you can see the heaps of sands. There is less rainfall and no vegetation, or we can say little vegetation. It is dry, hot, waterless and without shelter, means आप दूर दूर तक वहाँ पे कोई आप रहने की जगह नहीं देख सकते. It is not always flat land. It may have oasis. What is oasis? Oasis means there are some places where you can find water also, where you can find green plants also. And as there is water, green plants means there is vegetation to eat, means there we can find some animals also. Means in desert there are some parts that can be fertile, we can say. Well, if they are fertile, they are having plants also, and as plants are there, we can find animals also there. Some deserts are totally without water. In such places, strong winds blow, raising up heaps of sand which are called sand dunes. Now, as the deserts are very hot and there the winds keeps on blowing. So, the winds which blow, they form the heap of sands, and that heap of sands are called sand dunes, and this sand dunes keeps on shifting. It doesn't mean कि ये जो mountain बना है, sand dunes मतलब एक तरह से आप समझो sand का mountain बना है, तो sand का mountain बना है, it doesn't mean कि ये ऐसा ही रहेगा. Whenever wind blows, it shift the wind, means sand dunes also, means the heaps of sand also keeps on shifting. Now, what actually the things are, means what the experts which are there in the which have searched about the desert, what they have thought, plants and animals, means what they have found about the desert, means they have found the three main things which can survive in the desert, means the plants and animals can survive in the desert. Sheep of the desert, small desert animals and desert plants, means there are few plants and few animals who can retain this type of climate. So let's start with the sheep of the desert. Now, thinking of the sheep of the desert, the only thing comes to our mind is camel. We all have been learning from our childhood that the sheep of the desert is camel. Now, why it is sheep of the desert? Because the camel can survive without water for many days, and he can also store food in his hump for a long time. Means in hump he can store food, but the scientists still hasn't found that why he can survive, where he stores water and how he can survive without water for a long time. Actually, when it is a hot climate, so in hot climate what happens, main thing, that people sweat a lot, and as sweating is there, the quench of thirst is over there. So camel is an animal which has less sweating, or we can say no sweating at all. That's why it is able to retain that hot temperature, and it is also able to retain the water which he is drinking. Now, camel approximately drinks about 100 liters of water in one quench. Means एक ही बार में वो 100 liter water drink कर सकता है, and he can survive through long time. That's why, means with this properties of camel, it can survive in the camel, and hence it is called sheep of the desert. Now, small desert animals. Now, what are the small desert animals? means there are small desert animals, means when the climate is hot during the daytime, as climate is very hot, so what they do, they go underground the सैन मीन्स अपने आप को वो बरी कर देते हैं अंडरग्राउंड, ताकि उनको जो वो हीट है वो उससे बचे रहें. बट at the night time they come out and they find out something for their eating. How they find out? Either they eat other animals, some of them eat other animals and get water. They need from the moisture of the meat. Means वो दूसरे animals को खाकर अपनी प्यास भी बुझाते हैं. मीन्स जो उनके खाने में से उनको मॉइस्चर मिलता है, सो दे कैन रिटेन देयर मॉइस्चर. Other eat plants and seeds and get the water they need from the plant juices. And some animals are there which can bring plants, which can eat plants, and they can quench their thirst with the plant juices. Now desert plants. What are the desert? Which type of plants we can find? Most of the time we can find cactus over there, because cactus is a plant in which desert it has adapted the climate of the desert. Means it is a plant which can store water in their thick stems. Desert plants also adopt themselves. For example, cactus plant stores water in their thick stems. Their roots are close to the surface of the ground and quickly absorb the moisture from the light rain that actually occasionally falls. Now, as there is very less rain, means there is very rare we can see the desert is having a rainfall. So means whenever it rains, the cactus can absorb the moisture, means वो water store करके अपने स्टेम में काफी दिनों तक रख सकते हैं. एंड दैट्स व्हाई that plant is able to survive in that hot climate. Now these are the three things which we can find in the desert. Now as you all know, now the temperature of the desert is too hot over there. Means in daytime the temperature rises very high, and it keeps on fluctuating. Suddenly it comes down, suddenly it goes high. Temperature in the desert shows variation because of the moisture. Deserts are an important part of the nature and has great plan. Now it doesn't mean यहाँ हमको जो writer है जिसने ये poem chapter लिखा है, he is trying to say that we can see desert as a hot and dry place, but it doesn't mean that it is an ignorable place. Means हम उसको avoid नहीं कर सकते. It has its own beauty and it is not useless. कोई वो useless हमारा earth का कोई space नहीं है. Just because they are hot and dry, we should not look upon them as a useless part of the earth. Means as they are hot and dry, that means it doesn't mean they are useless. Now I hope you all have understood the beauty of the desert, and you all must have found that these animals and these plants, with these small plants and small animals, and also the sheep of the desert, they have adapted the desert as their home place. Means they have adapted the dry and hot climate. Means there is some beauty in the desert also. There is living things, as there are living things, so definitely there is a beautiful place to live for them. So I hope you all have understood the beauty of the desert.
Now let's see some of the animals which can be found in the desert. One of them which we have already seen, it is camel. In spite of that, we can also see merkit. These are also animals which can survive without water for many days. Desert tortoise, it can live in the burrow and retain the hot climate. Fennec fox, it is also an animal which can retain without water for many days, and it lives deep inside the sand to sustain the hot climate. In spite of that, we can also find many birds like woodpeckers, roadrunners, ostrich. These all birds can survive in hot weather. Owls, Let's see few plants which we can find in the desert, that is cactus roots can sustain water from the ground and it can store it in his thick stem. In spite of that, we can also find elephant tree. It also has the same property which cactus had. It can also store its water in its thick trunk. Desert sage, it has a wax like coating on his its leaf which can protect them from hot weather. Joshua tree is a tree which has its root too deep in the desert, which they from which they can find water. That's all of the chapter. That's all from the chapter desert. I hope you all have loved watching the beautiful desert and its creature. Thank you and keep learning.